Okay, today I'm going to make a short video on how to make what I think is called a blowfly sander. When I made my mop sander, I made this a couple of weeks ago and I put a video up there. After I made this sander, I went on YouTube and I was looking around at different sanders, and I saw a few other cool sanders on YouTube, and one of them was a blowfly sander. And what it was the arbor was a little bit smaller in diameter than this, and it had these wires that would come off. I think there were 6 of them that came off and held a piece of sandpaper like this. You fold this over and you staple this and you slip it in that wire and then clip the wire on, and kind of like a safety pin. And I was thinking about that. I had this in a box. This is an old paint scraper, and you can get this pretty much at any hardware store, a paint scraper. And I thought, I'm going to try to make one of those sanders out of this. All I have to do is take these wires off of here, and it's already a real nice arbor. And then I could take the wires off and put my sandpaper through, staple it, and probably build this thing within 20 minutes. So the first thing I'm going to do is take all these wires off, and I already took a few off. And I think the best way, let me put my safety glasses on. I think the best way to do it, see what this wire does is it wraps around there twice, and then it goes in, and it loops kind of behind this arbor, this 1/4 inch rod there. So what I did was I just clipped this, and I hold this so it doesn't go shooting. So I just clip that. Then I take some needle nose and I find that piece in there. The wires are hitting it. And then just pull it out. There's probably other ways to do it. You could take a Dremel with a cutoff wheel, but I didn't want to score any of the plastic. So it looks like there's 10 of them on each one, and there's 6 posts here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all those off, and I happen to find this roll of emery paper. I wish I would have found this when I did my mop sander, because it's pretty much the right width. It's 2 inch, and there's a whole roll of it, and it's 80 grit. And see, I went out and got the sandpaper for this one. It took I think 10 sheets to do this. The cool thing with this sander is it won't take very much. You could probably do it if you have just sheet sandpaper, emery paper. You can cut it up and probably do it in 2 sheets. What I'm going to do is I cut it at 8 inches long, and I'm going to kind of fold it over around those rods and then staple it. And the only thing is, this sandpaper is 2 inches wide, and this is about 1 9/16 inches. So I'm going to have to take my paper cutter and cut the width of this down a little bit, but that's not bad because there's only going to be 6 of them. So it doesn't take much sandpaper, and I'm interested to see how it's gonna perform. It's going to be different than this one. I think it's going to be more aggressive, and because on this one here, you can see how it wore down. It's really not that bad. I ran, I think, 80 or 90 spokes through it, and you can see how the middle is kind of worn down. Probably about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. But the cool thing is, as this wears down, you always get fresh sandpaper. So with this sander, with the mop sander, you can do profiles. I showed you that piece of molding I did on here. You can do profiles, and it worked really good on these spokes. It smoothed them right out. So this other one will probably be a little bit more aggressive, and it might be good for like taking a piece of wood and rounding over the ends, and we'll see. But it's easy enough to build, and I have all the materials right here in the shop. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll stop the camera, and I'll take all these wires off, and I'll start it right back up. And what I'll do is I'll cut all these pieces, and then I'll show you how I staple them on here, okay? Okay, I'm about 5 minutes into taking all these wires off, and I just wanted to show you. The first thing that I did was go ahead and cut all the lengths off, and that didn't take long at all. And I have 2 spools completely removed. And then the next thing, after you get the first one done, then it's a lot easier to get the needle nose right in there, and then you just do one at a time. You just put it in there and pull them out. So it really doesn't take long. Probably probably like 15 minutes and you'll have all these off. So I just wanted to show you that, okay? Okay, that didn't take long to take those wires off. And then I cut 6 pieces of, it's 80 grit emery cloth. And I did have to cut the width down to about 1 9/16 inches. And I already have 3 on here. And I'm going to show you how I put them on. I use a stapler. Now this stapler here, it wouldn't go through the paper. And so I have an upholstery stapler that I use. And I'll show you how I do that. So I just put the sandpaper through there. I line it up. Then I put a spring clamp on it. And then I put a piece of wood in my vise here. And I just put this over like that. And here's my upholstery stapler. I have, they're 3/8 wide, and these are 1/4 inch long staples. So I'm going to show you, I just put 2 of them in. And then I just take it off the piece of wood. And now I have to fold them over. So I just took a piece of wood here. Fold that over. Like that. Make sure it's pushed all the way through there. Fold this over, and then I take a pair of pliers and just kind of crimp it a little bit more. Seems to go a little bit more. So that's it. There's 4 of them, and I have 2 more to go. So I'll put those on, and then I'll put it in the drill press, and we'll see how it works. Okay? Okay, I installed the rest of the sandpaper pieces on here and I stapled them over. One change I did make, I cut about 3/4 of an inch off of the length of this. I ran it and it seemed a little bit too long, so instead of 8 inches, these would come out to be 6.5 inches. And then fold them over and then staple them. So I ran it, I'm running it at about 2,000 RPMs, which was the same speed as I was running that mop sander at. One thing I found is it works a lot better than the mop sander at rounding these edges. And I'll go ahead and start it up and show you. This is a piece of teak. And that's how it runs at the 2,000 RPMs. So it's a lot faster at just taking that edge off. Now I realize if you had straight stock like this, you would just run this through a router or something. But if you had irregular shapes and a lot of parts, and you want to just take the edge off, this works pretty good. Rather than like a spindle sander, you'll get it'll get a little bit more irregular when you're running it through. You've got to watch a little bit. You have to be more conscious at how many times you run it through and how hard you're pressing. On this here, it's got a little give to it. So it works pretty good. Here's a piece of mahogany. That's a little bit of stain that was on there. Then you can round the edges, or break the edges. See that there? So it works pretty good. I like the mop sander a little bit better for all these parts here because I think it's a little bit more forgiving, like on these spokes. There's just a lot more little individual pieces of sandpaper hitting this. I think it's more forgiving. This is probably a little, well, it is a little bit more aggressive, and I would use this on probably taking the edge off of parts. Now you could also take this off, put it in your drill, And if you can't get a part, you know, to the drill press. And then I also grabbed a piece of copper. You can see what it did to the end of there. Cleaned it up. So for certain applications, I think it's going to work fine. And the cool thing is, it takes probably less than two sheets of sandpaper, and they're very easy. They're very easy just to replace them. You just rip these off and put a new piece on and staple them. So, and you know, actually, you could probably go ahead and cut these like this here, like this mop sander. You can cut them and maybe it'll be a little bit more forgiving. But for 20 minutes and a couple of sheets of sandpaper, I don't think it's a bad thing to have around. And for certain applications, it should work real well. So that'll do it for the Blowfly sander. All right.